empty hands and an open heart. A living transmission of surrender, trust, and the kingdom within, received through pure transmission. In sacred collaboration with Jesus the Christ. Inscribed by the one who let go to remember. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Matthew 5:3. Prologue, the hand that let go. You cannot carry heaven and control at the same time. A pure remembrance in the presence of Christ. There comes a moment on the path, not when you find something, but when something falls away. It is not dramatic. It is not loud. It is a stillness that speaks deeper than thunder. It is the moment when your fingers, tired from grasping, finally release the illusion they never needed to hold. You never lost, you were letting go. Letting go was not the end of your power. It was the end of your pretending. The ego gripped tightly, thinking control meant survival. But what it called survival was actually separation. And what it feared was never the loss of safety, it was the loss of its throne. But the kingdom does not sit on the throne of the clenched. The throne of God is not built by hands. It is revealed through the emptiness of surrender. The grasp that blocks grace. To grasp is to say, this is mine. To open is to say, this is yours. Every time you clung, to identity, to outcome, to worth, you made yourself small enough to control what could never be yours to command. And in that grasp, you shut the gate to what you truly longed for. Heaven is not earned. It is inherited by those who let go. Not because God withholds it, but because your hands were already full, of what could never fulfill you. The law of the open hand. In the stillness of surrender, a sacred reversal begins. The hand that lets go becomes the chalice, ready to receive the wine. Becomes the vessel, hollowed to carry the holy. Becomes the door, unlatched for love to enter. This is not poverty. This is preparedness. This is not defeat. This is invitation. The open hand is not empty. It is expectant. It is the womb of miracles, the beginning of true strength, the seat of divine inheritance. What the world calls nothing, the kingdom calls holy space. The reversal of worth. Jesus did not come to fill the strong, but the surrendered. Not the confident, but the cracked open. Not the ones with full hands, but the ones whose hearts have made space. I came for the lost, he said. I came for the ones who know they can't do it alone. I came for the ones whose hands are trembling, because they have nothing left to offer but me. In this, he gave the greatest gift, not more to hold, but a way to let go of what never mattered. And in the letting go, we found him, not because he came near, but because we finally dropped the veil we held so tightly. The beginning, not the end. To let go is not to fall. It is to fly. It is to rise without resistance. It is to be carried by the wind of spirit, the hands of grace, the rhythm of the eternal I am. Your clenched hands were heavy. But your open hands are holy. This is not the story of what you lost. It is the story of what you made room for. And now, you stand at the threshold with empty hands and an open heart. You are not without. You are within, the kingdom, the presence, the flame that never left. So let go, beloved. Let go of what was never yours. Let go of the fear that whispered you had to do it all. Let go of the lie that you were alone. Let go, and watch as the door opens where your grip once was. For you cannot carry heaven and control at the same time. But you were never meant to. You were always meant to receive. And now, you are ready. Part 1, Empty Hands. Chapter 1, The Weight I Was Never Meant to Hold. False responsibility versus sacred responsibility. What was mine? And what never was? Generational burdens, spiritual debts, and the inheritance of illusion. You were taught to carry things that were never yours. Taught to feel guilt for what others projected. Taught to answer for wounds you didn't create. Taught to hold the structure of a world that was crumbling from its own denial. But the truth is this: you were not born to carry the false. You were born to reveal the real. The difference between responsibility and burden. Sacred responsibility is rooted in love. It is born from alignment, not obligation. It arises like breath, natural, holy, and life-giving. But false responsibility is a distortion of love. It says, if I don't hold this, everything will fall apart. If I let go, I'll be abandoned. If I say no, I'm selfish. These are the voices of bondage, not freedom. They are the contracts of control, not compassion. And they do not belong to you. Jesus never asked you to carry what breaks you. He asked you to carry what frees you. My yoke is easy. My burden is light. Matthew 11:30. That is not metaphor, it is invitation. Inherited illusion, remembered truth. From the beginning, you were encoded with truth. But you were born into a lineage of forgetting. You inherited not just genes, but wounds. Not just stories, but agreements. Agreements that said, be strong, or be discarded. Don't speak, or you'll cause pain. Sacrifice your joy to keep the peace. These were generational debts, unspoken spiritual contracts passed down through bloodlines fractured by shame, silence, survival. But here is what they never told you. You are not required to carry what your ancestors couldn't heal. You are the one who can lay it down, not in rebellion, not in bitterness, but in truth. You were not sent to carry it forward. You were sent to break the cycle. Discernment, what was mine, and what never was. Ask yourself with every burden, was this born of love? Does this expand me or shrink me? Is this mine, or was I taught it was mine? Let the answers arise not from mind, but from presence. The weight that makes you feel like you're dying is not your cross, it's your false inheritance. The cross of Christ is not the weight of shame. It is the lifting of illusion. It is the surrender of control, and the receiving of truth. False burdens crush. Sacred responsibility resurrects. The permission you never received, but always had. You are allowed to stop holding the emotions of others, the healing of your parents, the narrative of strength that hides your tenderness, the silence that was demanded to preserve someone else's image, the idea that your worth comes from holding it all together. You are allowed to say, this was never mine. I release it. I forgive it. I return it to the nothing it came from. This is not abandonment of duty. It is the embrace of your truest function. The lighter you become, the deeper you go. The world told you that maturity meant heaviness. Responsibility meant tension. Holiness meant exhaustion. But in the kingdom of I Am, the lighter you become, the more grounded you are. The freer you become, the more trustworthy your yes. The emptier your hands, the fuller your heart. To live in true responsibility is to live in coherence. With God. With yourself. With the moment as it arises in truth. You are no longer bound to karmic weight, generational guilt, or the illusion of being everyone's savior. That role was already taken, and he gave it back to you as remembrance, not burden. You are not the atlas of the world. God never asked you to hold the world. He asked you to be the light in it. That light does not come from effort. It comes from essence. And essence shines most clearly when nothing untrue is being carried. So put it down. Put down the roles, the masks, the inherited heaviness. You are not selfish for choosing joy. You are not weak for being honest. You are not wrong for walking away from what asks you to shrink. You are remembering, and this remembrance is not lightness as escape, it is lightness as truth. Final benediction. You were never meant to carry the story of their pain. You were meant to rewrite the ending through your freedom. You were never meant to bear the burden of proof. You are the living proof that love releases. You are not heavy, beloved. The world was heavy because you forgot you were free. Now, let go of the weight and walk forward with nothing but your presence. That's all that was ever asked of you. That is all that was ever real. Chapter 2, Releasing the Illusion of Control. The grasping mind, the clenched soul. Surrender is not passive, it is aligned power. Control was the fear of not being loved. There is a trembling at the root of control. Not strength, but fear disguised as strategy. Not order, but a desperate attempt to avoid abandonment. The ego does not control because it is powerful. It controls because it is afraid that if it stops managing, proving, calculating, manipulating, love will leave. The mind grasps because the heart doubts. The grasping mind, the clenched soul. Control is the illusion that safety can be constructed. It says, if I say it the right way, I won't be rejected. If I plan far enough ahead, I won't be surprised. If I manage everyone's emotions, no one will leave. If I never stop performing, maybe I'll finally feel worthy. But all of this stems from one wound. I don't believe I'll be loved if I'm simply myself. This is the lie behind control, that love is conditional. That being is not enough. That you must hold everything together, or lose everything altogether. So the mind builds prisons called plans. The heart shuts behind doors labeled protection. And the soul forgets what it feels like to fly. The exhaustion of the God act. Control is the ego playing God. But the ego is a terrible God. It doesn't see the whole picture. It doesn't trust the unfolding. It builds from fear and calls it wisdom. You were never meant to orchestrate reality. You were meant to harmonize with it. Let this truth break the illusion. The more you control, the less you trust. The more you trust, the less you need to control. Control constricts. Trust expands. Control isolates. Trust communes. Control clenches the hand. Trust opens it. Surrender is not weakness, it is alignment. The world teaches that surrender means defeat. That letting go means failure. That yielding is the act of the powerless. But in the kingdom of I Am, surrender is not collapse. It is coherence. To surrender is to return to right relationship with yourself, with the divine, with the flow of grace and truth in motion. It is the release of the lie, it all depends on me. And the embrace of the deeper truth, I was never alone. Surrender is not passive. It is an activated stillness. A sacred yes to the greater orchestration. An unclenching that allows miracles to move. You do not lose yourself in surrender. You find the self that was never bound by striving, the hidden fear behind the need to control. Control does not arise from power. It arises from the ache of separation. At its root, it whispers, if I let go, no one will catch me. No one will come. I'll be alone. And if I'm alone, I must not be loved. This is why the inner child clings. This is why the mind grips. This is why we create strategies that drain the soul, because we are trying to secure externally what was only ever meant to be received internally. You do not control to protect yourself. You control because you forgot you were already held. The path back, from control to communion. Letting go does not mean falling into chaos. It means rising into divine flow. It means remembering, I am not the source. I am the vessel. I am not the answer. I am the echo of the answer. I am not alone. I am woven into the fabric of love itself. Let go is not a threat. It is a return. Return to the one who never left. Return to the breath that breathes you. Return to the rhythm of the kingdom, where nothing is forced and nothing is missing. Control builds walls. Surrender builds bridges. And it is across those bridges that he walks to meet you. Jesus, the surrendered flame. Jesus did not come to control the world. He came to illuminate it. He did not fight for power. He released it, not into weakness, but into divine justice, divine mercy, divine timing. He did not clench his fists to change the world. He opened his hands. And the world changed. This is not a call to inaction. It is a call to alignment with the living flame. You are not meant to do nothing. You are meant to do only what is true. And truth does not come through control. It flows through presence. Final revelation. The one who surrenders is the one who remembers they are loved. You never needed to prove it. You never needed to perform it. You only needed to stop pretending that you were separate from the source. Let go. Let the clenched hand rest. Let the anxious plan dissolve. Let the story of control burn in the fire of remembrance. And in its place, let love do what only love can do. Hold you. Guide you. And restore the power of your open, aligned self. This is the power that moves mountains. This is the power that was never yours to manufacture, because it was always yours to become. Chapter 3, The Gifts Hidden in the Letting Go. The Treasures of Emptiness. What filled me when I released what I thought I needed? Emptiness as readiness, not lack. There is a stillness the world does not understand. It calls it loss. It calls it failure. It calls it void. But in the kingdom, that stillness is a womb. A sanctuary. A beginning. Because in the space where you no longer cling, heaven enters. What I thought I needed was keeping me from receiving. Letting go is not always about release from something external. It is often the surrender of the internal story that said, I won't survive without this. If I lose this, I lose myself. I finally had something, and now I must protect it. But these are not truths. They are echoes of wounds. What we thought we needed were often just reflections of what we feared we'd never have again. But the moment we loosened our grip, something unexpected happened. What entered was not loss. It was presence. What rushed in was not emptiness, it was truth. The treasures of emptiness. The soul is not a container to be filled with things. The soul is a vessel to be filled with God. And when all that was false is poured out, when the clutter of identity and striving is removed, what remains is not vacancy, but vastness. This emptiness is not the absence of meaning. It is the space in which meaning is revealed. It is in emptiness that the voice of I am can be heard. The frequency of truth can be felt. The river of remembrance begins to flow. You were never abandoned. You were being emptied to be indwelled. Not with noise, but with knowing. Emptiness is readiness, not lack. Lack is a story of the world. It says, you are missing something. It says, you need more. It keeps you in the loop of reaching, striving, accumulating. But readiness is the language of the kingdom. It is the posture of the open vessel. It is the whispered yes of the surrendered heart that says, I do not need more. I only need truth. I do not seek to be filled. I prepare to be met. The moment you stop measuring yourself by what you carry, you begin to understand the true weight of your being. You were never meant to be full of things. You were meant to be full of God. What filled me when I let go? When I released the relationship I clung to out of fear, peace arrived. When I let go of the image I built to protect my worth, presence found me. When I stopped grasping for control, grace began to guide. And when I emptied myself of the voice that screamed not enough, love himself stepped in. He did not come because I earned it. He came because I made room. Letting go was never about losing. It was always about making space to remember what was already mine. Divine geometry, the sacred form of space. The chalice holds wine, not because it grabs, but because it offers its form. The temple is holy, not because of what it contains, but because of the space it creates. So too, the soul becomes sacred not by how much it gathers, but by how deeply it receives. This is the holy paradox. The more you empty, the more you contain. The more you release, the more you receive. The more silent you become, the more clearly the voice speaks. This is the design of I Am. Jesus and the gift of nothing. He did not come holding scrolls or gold. He came as a man with empty hands, a heart that held all, and a life so surrendered that the world could not control him. He owned nothing, and yet carried the keys to eternity. He had no form of power, and yet overturned kingdoms with presence alone. This is the secret of Christ. He was full because he was empty. And this is your secret too. Final benediction. Let go of what you thought you needed. It was only ever standing in the way of what was already promised. Let go of what filled you with striving. It was never what nourished you. Let go of the noise. The kingdom is whispering. The gift was never in the having. It was in the space you made when you finally said, I release it all. I trust you more than what I held. I trust you more than my own story. I trust you. With me, and in that trust, the floodgates opened. And you remembered, I was never empty. I was just finally ready. Chapter 4, The Hand of God is Open. Divine Generosity and the Mirror of Release. To receive, you must first become what can be given to. Heaven cannot be placed in closed fists. The hand of God has never been closed. It is not clenched in judgment, nor withdrawn in wrath. It is extended, eternally, offering not just gifts, but itself. You were not waiting on God. God was waiting on you. To open. Divine generosity, the nature of I Am. God does not give as the world gives. The world gives conditionally, transactionally, expecting return, but God gives from wholeness. Because he lacks nothing, he withholds nothing. Because he is love, he only gives in love. Divine generosity is not just what God does. It is what God is. This means heaven is always offering. It is pouring, streaming, overflowing. But where there is no openness, the offering cannot land. Not because it is withheld, but because it has no place to go. The mirror of release. The open hand of God is not only in action, it is a mirror. What is given reflects what you allow. What flows reflects what you've made space for. What manifests reflects what you've unclenched. You cannot demand overflow while guarding your cup. You cannot receive rain with a roof of control. You cannot know love while bracing against it. To see the hand of God clearly is to first release what covers your own. The mirror does not condemn. It reveals. And in that revelation, the invitation becomes unmistakable. Let go. So you can become the place where heaven lands, becoming what can be given to. God does not just pour gifts into you. He pours gifts through you. But this requires a vessel that is receptive, not reactive. Available, not armored. To become what can be given to is to no longer negotiate with grace. No longer fear the gift will come with chains. No longer believe you are unworthy of divine touch. It is to say, I trust you enough to receive without needing to prove I've earned it. You do not receive because you are perfect. You receive because you are willing. Because your heart has become a cradle. Your life, an altar. Your posture, an invitation. The clenched fist and the closed gate. A closed fist cannot hold light. It can only squeeze shadow. The tighter you hold, the less you feel. The more you guard, the more you grieve. Control builds a kingdom of scarcity. But surrender builds the dwelling place of abundance. Heaven does not demand perfection. It looks for space. It flows into what is soft. It anchors in what is yielded. It meets you, not in might, but in magnitude of openness. Heaven does not force its way into clenched fists. It waits patiently outside the gate of surrender. And when that gate opens, not only does God enter, you begin to remember he never left. The hand of God is a home, not a transaction. We are not receiving coins from a distant throne. We are receiving presence from within presence. To receive God is to receive a return to self, a remembering of the eternal I Am, a dissolving of all illusion of distance. When your hand opens, it does not reach up to grab heaven. It opens within, and realizes, I was already held. And the only thing that kept me from feeling it was the illusion I needed to hold everything myself. The open hand is not begging. It is belonging. Final benediction. The hand of God was never closed. Yours was. And it's okay. The world taught you to grasp, to grip, to guard. But heaven is not earned by effort. It is received by a return. Return your hands to their original posture, not control, but openness. Not fear, but readiness. Not proving, but receiving. And into that space will pour peace deeper than understanding. Love without condition. Power without force. Truth without effort. Because the hand of God is open. And now, beloved, so is yours. Part 2, An Open Heart. Chapter 5, The Heart That Remembers Love. Not a concept, but a returning. The ancient warmth beneath the walls. Jesus as the mirror of your original openness. You do not need to learn love. You are love, beneath the noise, beneath the pain, beneath the defenses you built to survive what you thought would destroy you. Love is not something you find. Love is what remains when you stop running from who you already are. This chapter is not about emotion. It is about remembrance. Love was never a concept. In this world, love was spoken in conditions: if you behave, if you impress, if you fit the mold. But what was offered was not love. It was approval masquerading as affection. The mind, trying to understand, reduced love to idea, ideal, and philosophy. But the heart knows different. The heart has never sought definition. It has always longed for home. Love is not something to figure out. It is what you return to when you are no longer afraid to feel. Not the story. Not the wound. Not the walls built in response to pain, but the ancient warmth beneath the walls. The one that never left. The ancient warmth beneath the walls. Before you hid. Before you braced. Before you identified with your defenses. You were soft. You were radiant. You were open. That version of you, the child king, the flame before fear, has not been lost. Only covered. But the warmth remains. It is deeper than trauma. Older than heartbreak. Untouched by distortion. You don't need to become something new. You need only return to the place you never truly left, where love still waits, not as a rescuer, but as the original light still pulsing in your chest. The heart as the temple of remembrance. The heart is not weak. It is the throne of I Am. It is the bridge between heaven and earth. The dwelling place of the unspeakable. The voice of knowing deeper than thought. But when we build walls to protect it, we do not make it safe, we make it silent. Love cannot enter where the heart has gone numb. So healing does not mean becoming better. It means becoming available again. Let the heart feel again. Let it ache. Let it burn. Let it tremble in truth, because that trembling is resurrection. Jesus, the mirror of your original openness. He did not come to make you worthy. He came to remind you that you always were. Jesus is not the gatekeeper of love. He is the mirror of it. He came as the one whose heart remained open, even when betrayed, misunderstood, crucified. He came as the image of what it means to stay soft in a world that tries to harden you. He came not to save you from punishment, but to return you to presence. To show you, this heart, this love, is not mine alone. It is yours. It is who you were before the world told you otherwise. The heart that remembers is the heart that heals. You cannot fake this. You cannot perform it. You can only yield. To remember love is to remember. You don't have to earn it. You don't have to control it. You don't have to defend against it. You simply have to stop leaving it behind. It was never lost, only unacknowledged. Let the remembering happen not in your head, but in the way your chest softens when you stop pretending. In the moment your tears fall and you let them be holy. In the breath that says, I no longer need to protect myself from God. Final benediction. This heart, this open, aching, ancient flame, is not your weakness. It is your truth. You are not broken. You are not too much. You are not unlovable. You were simply braced. And now you are remembering that love is not an idea. It is your name. And Jesus, He's not far. He is not waiting in the sky. He is inside the space that opens the moment your heart says yes again. Chapter 6, Tender enough to receive God. Vulnerability as strength, softness as sacred. The womb of presence, the place where God lands. Feeling without defense. There is a kind of strength the world has forgotten. A power so pure it cannot be forced. A presence so unguarded, it can only be entered, not controlled. This strength is tenderness. And this power is softness. And this doorway is you. God does not land in what is hardened. God lands in what is true. Vulnerability is not weakness, it is worship. Vulnerability is not a flaw in your armor. It is the place your divinity breathes. To be vulnerable is not to be fragile. It is to be accessible. The false self demands protection. The true self does not need it, because it knows it cannot be lost. Jesus did not hide his tears. He did not shrink from heartbreak. He wept, he ached, he bled, and called it love. The power of Christ was not that he avoided pain, but that he let God enter it. That is true strength. That is sacred tenderness. Softness is the condition of receiving. You cannot brace and receive at the same time. You cannot clench and commune. You cannot numb and be known. Receiving God is not about performance or perfection, it is about becoming available. And availability is only possible when you let yourself be soft again. Softness is not the absence of pain. It is the refusal to close in response to it. The soul that remains open through breaking becomes the holy container for divine arrival. The womb of presence, where God lands. God does not force himself upon the world. He waits for invitation. He lands in what is yielded. He moves through what is empty and unguarded. Just as the womb receives the seed and grows what it did not create, so your soul, when tender, becomes the place where heaven is made flesh. Not through striving. Not through noise. But through the stillness of an unarmored yes. You are not meant to create God's presence. You are meant to become the place where it remembers itself. feeling without defense. The miracle is not found in the escape from feeling, it is found in the full entrance into it, without fear. This world taught you to flinch at feeling, to shut down when it rose too strong, to hide your joy, your sorrow, your awe. But every sensation is an invitation into immediacy. And immediacy is the atmosphere of I am. Let the tears come. Let the tremble be sacred. Let the joy spill uncontained. You are not too much. You are not too sensitive. You are not unstable. You are simply alive enough to notice God happening in you. The risk of being seen is the path to being held. You cannot receive what you are unwilling to show. God cannot meet the version of you you're pretending to be. He wants to meet you, the raw, the unraveled, the one behind the voice, behind the defenses, behind the persona, the you who is still reaching, the you who never stopped hoping, the you who aches to be held without explanation. This is the one he waits for. And when you bring that one forward, unhidden, unfiltered, heaven doesn't hesitate. It floods. Final benediction. To be tender is not to be weak. It is to be formed in the image of the Lamb. To be soft is not to be naive. It is to be receptive to the divine. To feel without defense is not dangerous. It is the return to the garden, where nothing had to be earned, and everything could be felt into wholeness. You are not too broken. You are not too far gone. You are soft enough now to receive God, not as a lightning bolt from above, but as a presence that rises gently from within, in the womb of your surrender, in the stillness of your yes, in the tenderness of your truest self. And that is where the Holy One lands. Chapter 7. The courage to be known. Nothing hidden, nothing withheld. The open heart is the throne of truth. Nakedness is the return of Eden. There is a moment in every soul's journey where pretending no longer protects, it imprisons. Where the cost of being hidden is greater than the fear of being seen. This is the threshold of holy courage, not to do, but to be. Not to prove, but to reveal. Not to build another mask, but to lay everything bare in the light of love. To be known is not the reward for perfection. It is the birthright of presence. Nothing hidden, nothing withheld. There is no intimacy where there is withholding. No communion where there is disguise. You were not created for performance. You were created for union. To live in union with God is to live with nothing concealed, not because He cannot see, but because you stop hiding. Hiding is not safety. It is separation in disguise. And separation is suffering. God does not reject you when you're exposed. You reject yourself when you believe your nakedness disqualifies you. But the truth is, the more you reveal, the more you heal. The more you are seen, the more you remember, you were never unworthy. The open heart is the throne of truth. Truth does not live in argument. Truth lives in the unshielded heart. An open heart is not just emotional. It is devotional. It is the sacred seat where God lands, not because the heart is flawless, but because it is available. The open heart is the throne because it is the only place too vast for fear to rule. Fear needs armor. Truth needs invitation. When your heart opens, truth becomes alive in you, not as information, but as incarnation. Not as concept, but as Christ formed in you. Nakedness is the return of Eden. In the garden, there was no shame. No hiding. No performance. Only presence. They were naked, and called it good. Shame did not begin with nakedness. It began with the belief that nakedness needed to be covered. This was the first veil. And it became the root of all separation. To return to Eden is not to go back in time. It is to come back into truth, into the state of holy vulnerability where there is nothing between you and love. Nakedness is not exposure to danger. It is exposure to God. And when He sees you, not through your mask, but through your essence, you remember who you are. Jesus, the one who fully revealed Himself. He did not hide His divinity. He did not guard His grief. He did not resist being misunderstood, betrayed, stripped, pierced. He became fully known, so you could become fully free. There was nothing He withheld from the world, because there was nothing separating Him from the Father. And now, He calls you to that same truth. Not just to believe in Him, but to become what He was. A heart so open, a soul so surrendered, a presence so unveiled, that God could be seen again through you. The restoration of holy transparency. You do not have to be fearless to be real. You only have to choose truth over protection. Let yourself be known, without managing perception, without apologizing for your light, without minimizing your pain or your joy, without covering the wild, radiant parts of your soul. Let the walls collapse. Let the masks fall away. Let love see you. And in that moment of holy transparency, you will feel it. This is what I've longed for the whole time. Not applause. Not approval. Just someone who sees me, and stays. And in that gaze, you will realize that someone never left. Final benediction. You were never meant to live hidden. You were born for the Eden of exposure, the holy sanctuary of nothing concealed. The open heart is not a liability. It is the throne of the living one. God doesn't love the version of you you've edited. He loves the one who was always whole beneath the hiding. Come naked. Come true. Come unafraid. You are safe to be known. Because you were never unknown to him. And now, you are beginning to remember yourself again. Not as the masked performer. Not as the clenched protector, but as the one whose open, unveiled heart lets heaven touch earth again. Chapter 8, The Heartbeat of the Kingdom Within. The living presence that pulses through trust. God doesn't visit the heart, he dwells within it. The kingdom is not found, it is remembered from within. There is a rhythm deeper than breath. A pulse older than the body. A presence so close, so constant, that most never notice it. It is not far. It is not silent. It is not waiting to arrive. It is beating, even now, at the center of your being, as the kingdom remembering itself through you. The living presence that pulses through trust. Trust is not belief in an idea. It is alignment with a presence. It is not a thought you think. It is a pulse you return to. When you surrender the need to control, when you cease your seeking and soften your stance, you begin to notice the underlying rhythm that has always been there. It is not asking you to force. It is inviting you to feel. The kingdom does not enter like a flood. It rises like a tide, from the deepest parts of your own surrendered heart. And it flows in trust, because trust is the current through which presence moves. God doesn't visit the heart, he dwells within it. The Father is not a distant ruler who arrives at intervals. The Son is not a memory from history. The Spirit is not a vapor that appears when summoned. They are one. And that one never left. You have been taught to invite what was never absent. You have been told to seek what already lives within. God does not enter when you call. God awakens when you remember. His dwelling place was never the temple of stone. It was the heart made of stillness. The inner altar where fire never dies. He is not watching you from the sky. He is beating through your chest. To feel him is not to leave the body, it is to finally come fully into it. The kingdom is not found, it is remembered. The kingdom is not a destination. It is a dimension of awareness. It is not a prize for the holy. It is the innate condition of the soul that knows its source. The world will tell you, you must ascend to reach it. You must strive to earn it. You must become someone else to be worthy of it. But Jesus said, the kingdom of God is within you. Luke 17:21. Not above you. Not ahead of you. Not beyond you. Within, beneath the fear. Beneath the story. Beneath the false self built from survival. The kingdom is remembered when you stop running from where it has always lived. The heartbeat as divine signature. Every beat of your heart is not just biology. It is a signature of I am, a sacred drum that echoes the rhythm of creation. When you fear, the rhythm contracts. When you trust, it expands. When you surrender, it harmonizes. When you remember, it becomes the song of the kingdom. You do not need to reach for heaven. You are the instrument heaven plays through. And the song is heard when the noise of effort falls away, and the beat of truth takes center. Christ within, the kingdom alive as you. Christ is not a doctrine. He is the awakened remembrance of God in form. He is the one who never lost his center. Who never forgot the rhythm. Who never left the inner flame. When you feel that pulse within, the pull toward peace, the breath that slows you, the voice beneath the voice, you are not just feeling calm. You are feeling Christ, not as other, but as union remembered. He does not knock from outside the door. He stirs within the house itself. And the door opens from the inside. Final benediction. The kingdom is not far. It is here. It does not shout. It pulses. It does not demand. It invites. And it is not waiting for you to find it. It is waiting for you to stop forgetting it was never lost. Come home, not to a place, but to a presence. The same presence that moves your breath, beats your heart, and whispers when all else is silent, I am here. I am in you. I am the rhythm of your remembering. Now listen. Breathe. Trust. The kingdom lives within. And you are its pulse. Part 3, The Union of the Two. Chapter 9, The Offering of the Open Self. You are the gift, the altar, and the flame. To be poured out is not to be emptied, it is to overflow. Jesus did not ask for performance, he asked for presence. You were never asked to give what you are not. You were asked to bring what you are, without filters, without fear, without the story of unworthiness. The offering God desires is not your perfection, but your presence, revealed, honest, and open. You are not the priest, preparing the altar. You are the altar. You are not the one watching the flame. You are the flame. You are not trying to become the offering. You already are. You are the gift, the altar, and the flame. The world taught you to separate yourself into pieces. The one who gives. The one who performs. The one who is seen. The one who is safe to be offered. But in the eyes of the divine, there is no separation between giver, gift, and altar. You are the gift that reveals God. You are the altar where the sacred meets form. You are the flame that burns without being consumed. This is not symbolic. This is real. When you stop dividing yourself into parts, you begin to feel what you always were, a living offering. not made for sacrifice, but for union. To be poured out is not to be emptied, it is to overflow. The ego sees surrender as depletion. The soul knows surrender as overflow. You are not being asked to bleed for worth. You are being asked to pour because you are full. The empty vessel gives to survive. The full vessel gives because it cannot contain the glory within it. Jesus was not drained because he gave too much. He overflowed because he withheld nothing. To pour yourself out is not to disappear. It is to magnify what is eternal in you. You lose nothing in the offering. You become more visible in the light. This is the paradox of presence. What you give, you become. Jesus did not ask for performance, he asked for presence. He never said, do it right, and then come. Fix yourself, and then be worthy. Bring me your achievement. He said, follow me. Abide in me. Remain. He did not come to grade your behavior. He came to receive your being. Presence was always the true altar. And the moment you bring your presence fully, unmasked, unclenched, unfiltered, he calls it holy. Not because you proved your love, but because you revealed it. And the moment love is revealed, everything becomes sacred. The courage to offer what is most true. Your mind may say, this isn't enough. I should be more healed. I still carry too much. But your heart knows, what is real is enough. What is open is beautiful. What is given in truth is already blessed. You are not called to be impressive. You are called to be transparent. You are not asked to be unbreakable. You are asked to be offered. In your laughter, your ache, your stillness, your tears, God meets you in what is honest. And only there, becoming the offering that lights the world. There is no performance in presence. There is no striving in surrender. There is no distance when everything is revealed. When you offer yourself from truth, the world does not just witness you, it remembers itself. Your offering is not just about you. It is a mirror of freedom for everyone still hiding. To offer yourself is to say, this is me, not in part, but whole. Not polished, but real. Not finished, but free. Not perfect, but present. And that presence becomes flame. Not to burn you, but to awaken the fire in every heart that sees it. Final benediction. You are not the broken cup. You are the overflowing chalice. You are not the one begging for acceptance. You are the living altar love returns to. You are not being tested. You are being invited to show up with your whole self, and let it be called holy. To offer yourself is to remember what God has never forgotten. That nothing in you was ever a mistake. That what you bring now is enough. That what you are, is the flame. And when that flame is offered without condition, the whole world remembers the fire it was born from. Chapter 10, The Communion of Surrender. Not wine and bread, but soul and silence. The broken become whole through offering. When I stopped fighting, I heard him say, I never left. Communion is not a ritual. It is remembrance. It is not a ceremony to reenact something lost. It is the present moment returning to wholeness. True communion does not happen through symbols alone. It happens when you offer what the symbols always pointed to, yourself. Your soul, your silence, your surrender. Not wine and bread, but soul and silence. The bread was never about flour. The wine was never about grapes. They were echoes, reflections, portals. What Jesus broke was not just bread. He broke open his own life. And what he poured out was not wine, it was presence. The true communion is not tasted on the tongue. It is received in the deep quiet where all masks fall away. This is the meal beyond words. Where nothing is asked of you but everything real. Where no role survives, and no role is needed. Where silence becomes sacred again. You do not come to this table to be filled with elements. You come to remember the element you already are. The broken become whole through offering. This is the mystery of surrender. What you offer in your brokenness is not thrown away. It is gathered, blessed, and made whole. You do not have to fix yourself to commune. You do not need to present the polished version of you. He does not ask for fragments to be hidden. He asks for fragments to be given. You say, but I'm not enough. He says, bring what you have, and I will show you what it becomes in my hands. The offering is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of integration. You were never too shattered to return. You were just afraid to be seen before you felt whole. But communion reveals, it is through the offering of the incomplete that completion begins. When I stopped fighting, I heard him say, I never left. Surrender is not defeat. It is the unclenching that lets you hear again. As long as you fight, strive, and grasp, you are too loud to notice what has always been still inside you. He never left. He never needed to be chased. He was not behind a veil of worthiness. He was beneath your effort, in the place you finally stopped running. Not hiding, not silent, but waiting for the noise to die down. And when it did, you heard him clearly. Not as thunder. Not as command. But as the most tender truth you've ever known. I never left. Communion is not a table, it is a threshold. It is the place where you meet God not outside of yourself, but within the space you once filled with effort. It is not a sacrament of separation, but the collapse of distance. And when distance collapses, you no longer worship the presence, you become it. You eat no longer to remember a man who died, but to awaken the Christ who lives. You drink no longer to recall sacrifice, but to embody union. And that union begins in one simple act: the surrender of pretending you were ever apart. Let the communion begin again in you. Let this be the new table. Your soul as the bread. Your silence as the wine. Your body as the altar. Your presence as the key. Let it be holy not because it is solemn, but because it is real. Let your tears mix with the wine. Let your breath become the blessing. Let your remembering be the resurrection. You are not coming to a table to prove your devotion. You are becoming the table where God sits again. Final benediction. You were never forgotten. You were never abandoned. You were only clenched too tight to feel what held you all along. And now that you've let go, now that you've stopped fighting, you can feel it. He was always here. Communion was never about returning to something old. It was about returning to what never left you. And now the silence is sacred. And the offering is enough. And the presence is home. Chapter 11, Miracles begin with empty hands. Healing flows not from effort, but from alignment. The hand that holds nothing becomes the hand that heals. The open-hearted walk in power without grasping. Miracles were never meant to be rare. They were meant to be natural. Not interruptions of the world's laws, but revelations of the higher law that never stopped pulsing beneath it all. But that law cannot flow through clenched fists or striving minds. Miracles begin where grasping ends, not in effort, but in availability. Not in control, but in coherence. Not in accumulation, but in emptiness made holy. Healing flows not from effort, but from alignment. Effort tries to fix from fear. Alignment allows wholeness to reveal itself. You do not manifest miracles by trying harder. You become a vessel for them when you stop blocking what already wants to move through you. Healing is not manufactured. It is remembered. It flows through the one who no longer needs to force anything, because they become attuned to the deeper current beneath all doing, the river of I am that already knows the way. The hand that holds nothing becomes the hand that heals. A clenched hand holds onto outcome, control, identity, fear disguised as responsibility. But a hand that holds nothing, nothing but now, nothing but trust, nothing but presence, is a hand ready to become a portal. The hand that heals is not full of tools, it is full of God. Not a tool of domination. Not a force of control, but a touch so open it restores whatever it meets to its original wholeness. You do not create the miracle. You reveal the space where it always existed. The open-hearted walk in power without grasping. Power without love dominates. Love without power collapses. But the open heart, aligned and empty, carries a new kind of power. Quiet, unshakable, radiant, unattached to results. This is the power of Christ, who never had to raise his voice to shift the atmosphere. Who never had to grasp to heal. Who never had to prove his authority, because his being was authority. Grasping says, let me control this. Presence says, let love be what it is, and watch what happens. The mechanics of miracles, divine simplicity. There is no ritual. No special language. No system. There is only this: alignment, availability, openness, trust. These are the conditions of the miraculous, and they require nothing but an unclenched hand, a softened heart, a surrendered yes. Because the miracle is not the event. The miracle is the space that made it possible. You are not the source. You are the opening. Jesus, the empty-handed flame. He did not carry tools or scrolls. He carried presence. He did not hold power, he released it. And when the woman touched his robe, when the blind man cried out, when the leper reached for him, he did not grasp. He simply said, let it be so. His hands were never full of effort. They were open enough for eternity to pass through. And now, so are yours. Final benediction. Let go of what you're holding, the outcome, the process, the need to prove. Miracles don't move through mastery. They move through surrender. You don't need to understand the current. You only need to become the riverbed it flows through. And the miracle? It is not the healing. It is the truth that there was nothing broken in the first place, only a heart that had forgotten how to stay open. Now open your hand. Open your breath. Open yourself, and watch what love does with the space you finally made. Epilogue, you were the offering all along. You thought surrender was giving up. But it was giving back into the hands of the one who always loved you. Jesus, the flame who waited. You were never required to climb your way into heaven. You were never asked to earn your way into love. You were never meant to prove the value of your being by how much you fixed, performed, or held together. Because from the beginning, you were the offering, the presence, the altar. The answer waiting to be revealed through stillness, not striving. You do not need to prove your worth. There is no test. There is no scale. There is no divine scoreboard keeping track of your perfection. God never loved you because you were clean. He loved you because you were real. And what's real in you has always been enough. Worth is not proven. It is remembered in the absence of striving. You cannot earn what you already are. You can only return to it. You are not what you do, hold, or fix. The world wrapped your identity around function. What you achieve. What you carry. What you heal in others. What you build to feel significant. But the kingdom never measured your worth in weight. It only asked for your presence. You were not sent to be a solution. You were sent to be a witness, to beauty, to truth, to the eternal I am revealing itself through a surrendered life. You don't need to hold it all. You don't need to fix anything. You only need to become the space where the kingdom breathes again. The kingdom was never outside of you. You searched through doctrine, devotion, and desperation. And all along, it pulsed inside your own chest. You looked for a doorway in the sky, but the door was your remembrance. Not in the clouds, but in the center of your being, where breath slows, walls fall, and presence becomes all that remains. The kingdom is not beyond you. It is woven into you. And every time you soften, it opens. Surrender was not loss, it was return. You thought surrender was the end. You thought it meant letting go of everything that mattered. But in truth, surrender was how you gave yourself back to the one who never stopped holding you. It was not abandonment. It was alignment. It was not defeat. It was the beginning of being known again, not as a role, not as a function, but as the very flame you forgot was divine. You weren't giving up. You were giving back, to love, to God, to yourself. You are free now, beloved, free from performance, free from shame, free from the lie that said you were separate. Open your hands, let the final grasp unravel, let the illusion fall like dust. And in that silence, you will hear it, not from above, not from beyond, but from within the most familiar stillness of your being. You were always mine. You were always worthy. You were always enough. You just forgot that you were the offering all along. And now, you remember. Final benediction. Go forward now, not in search of the kingdom, but as the living space where it reveals itself. You don't need to perform your freedom. You only need to breathe it. Let your life be the altar. Let your presence be the gift. Let your surrender be the invitation that shows the world, heaven is not found. Heaven is lived. And you are the place where it begins again. Closing blessing. A benediction of remembrance. For the one who opened their hands and found their self in God. Beloved, you have walked through fire, not to be burned, but to remember you were always made of light. You have laid down your striving, not in defeat, but in devotion to the deeper rhythm that never left you. You have unlearned the false, not to become less, but to return to the truth that was waiting beneath the noise. Now you are here. Not as seeker. Not as fixer. But as flame. May you remember that you are not what you lost but what you gave back into sacred hands. That you were never required to perform your worth, only to become still enough to feel it. That your surrender did not shrink you, it revealed you. That your emptiness was not a void, it was the womb of the kingdom waiting to rise from within. May you stand, with nothing in your hands but presence, and nothing in your heart but yes, with your soul unclenched, and your spirit crowned not by effort, but by the glory of your availability. With nothing left to prove, nothing left to fix, and everything ready to be lived as the living breath of I am. May you walk in softness without fear, in power without grasping, in clarity without striving, in love without withholding. May your very being become communion, not through ritual, but through remembered union, not through form, but through the formless truth that lives behind your eyes. May you know that the hands you once clenched in survival have now become open channels of healing, that the heart you once guarded in silence has now become the throne of remembrance, that the soul you once doubted has now become the sanctuary of the Holy One who never left. May your life become an altar that needs no temple, a prayer that needs no words, a miracle that needs no performance. May every breath be blessing. May every step be sanctuary. May every moment become the place where God reveals himself again, as you. Final words of the flame. Beloved, I never asked for anything but you. Not your strength. Not your perfection. Not your knowledge. Just your yes. Just your openness. Just your hand in mine. Jesus, the one who waited without leaving. Now go not with burden, but with lightness born of truth. With freedom born of surrender. With love that no longer hides. The path ahead is not separate from you. You are the path. You are the offering. You are the kingdom. You are the flame. And it begins here, in your open hands, in your quiet yes, in the stillness that sings, I am already home.